The massive ship appeared over New York City at exactly noon on a Tuesday. It cast a shadow 3 miles wide across Manhattan, its dark metal surface reflecting nothing. People stopped walking. Cars pulled over. News helicopters circled at a safe distance, their cameras broadcasting the impossible sight to every corner of Earth. Ambassador Veltar stood on the bridge of the Harmony of Worlds, looking down at the primitive planet below. His blue-scaled hands moved across the control panels with practiced ease. Behind him, representatives from 11 other species watched through the viewing ports. They had all agreed this was necessary. "Such a young species," whispered Ambassador. "Kriya," her voice soft with something that might have been sadness. Her people, the Deltarians, remembered what it felt like to be new to the galaxy. "Young and dangerous," Veltar replied. His yellow eyes never left the planet. "Look at their history. They discovered nuclear fission and immediately built bombs. They mapped their own genetics and created biological weapons. They reached space and militarized it within decades. The evidence was overwhelming. For 50 Earth years, the Galactic Council had watched humanity with growing alarm. Radio signals from Earth told a story of constant warfare, environmental destruction, and weapons that could end all life on the planet. No other species in recorded galactic history had developed such destructive capabilities so quickly. The Council had debated for months. Some wanted immediate intervention. Others suggested containment. The Andromedans, with their logic-based society, had run thousands of simulations. The results were always the same. If left unchecked, humanity would eventually threaten the entire galaxy. "Open communication channels," Veltar commanded. Every television, radio, and internet connection on Earth suddenly carried the same signal. The image was clear. A tall, blue-scaled being with large yellow eyes, wearing robes that seemed to shift color in the light. "People of Earth," Veltar began, his voice automatically translated into every human language. "I am Ambassador Veltar of the Galactic Council. We represent 12 civilizations spanning this galaxy. We come not as conquerors, but as concerned neighbors." In the White House Situation Room, President Sarah Martinez stared at the screens alongside military leaders, scientists, and advisors from around the world. The room was silent except for the alien's voice. "Your species has developed at an alarming rate," Veltar continued. "Your capacity for destruction far exceeds your wisdom. For the safety of all intelligent life in this galaxy, we must intervene." Dr. Elena Vasquez, Earth's leading xenobiologist, leaned forward. She had dreamed of first contact her entire life. This was not how she had imagined it. "We offer you a choice," the alien ambassador said. "Submit to Council oversight. Surrender all weapons of mass destruction. Accept our guidance as you join the galactic community, or—" He paused, letting the word hang in the air. "We will be forced to take corrective action." General Robert Chen, head of the Global Defense Initiative, felt his jaw tighten. Around the world, his counterparts were having the same reaction. The alien was polite, but the message was clear. "Surrender, or be destroyed. You have 72 hours to decide," Veltar announced. "Choose wisely." The transmission ended. For several seconds, nobody in the Situation Room spoke. Then President Martinez stood up. "Get me every world leader on the line," she said. "And activate Protocol 7. Protocol 7 was something nobody had expected to use. Created after the formation of the Global Defense Initiative, it was humanity's plan for responding to an extinction-level threat that couldn't be fought with conventional weapons. Within an hour, secure communications linked every major government on Earth. The conversation was intense, but brief. Nobody wanted to surrender to aliens who treated them like dangerous children. Nobody wanted to see Earth destroyed. There had to be another option. Dr. Vasquez found herself leading the scientific response team. Her job was simple, but impossible. Learn everything about the alien ship in less than 3 days. "What do we know?" she asked the assembled scientists. "It's big," said Dr. James Park, an astrophysicist from Seoul. 2 kilometers long, 800 meters wide. But the mass readings don't match. It should weigh much more. "Energy signatures are off the charts," added Dr. Marie Dubois from Paris. But it's not nuclear, not fusion, not anything we recognize. The hull reflects no light, absorbs no radiation, said Dr. Yuki Tanaka from Tokyo. It's like it exists, but doesn't interact with normal matter. Dr. Vasquez looked at the data streaming across her screens. 72 hours to understand technology that was probably thousands of years ahead of human science. It should have been impossible, but humans had always been good at doing impossible things. Pattern recognition, she said suddenly. Forget trying to understand how it works. Look for patterns, weaknesses, anything we can use. Around the world, similar conversations were happening. Military leaders studied the ship's positioning. Engineers analyzed its energy output. Physicists theorized about its propulsion system. On the alien ship, Veltar watched Earth's response with interest. Most species faced with Council intervention either immediately surrendered or launched hopeless attacks. Humans were doing something different. They were studying. Should we be concerned? Asked Admiral Thrak, commander of the Council's military forces. About primitives with chemical rockets and nuclear weapons? Veltar's laugh was like wind chimes. Let them study. It will make them feel better about their surrender. But Ambassador Kriya was not so sure. Her people had been students of war before joining the Council. She recognized something in humanity's response that the others missed. They're not preparing to surrender, she said quietly. Then they're preparing to die, Thrak replied. Either way, this will be over soon. On Earth, the 72 hours passed quickly. News networks broadcast constant updates. Religious leaders held prayer services. Scientists worked around the clock. And in secret facilities around the world, military leaders prepared for something that had never been attempted before. Dr. Vasquez made the breakthrough 18 hours before the deadline. Zero-point energy extraction, she announced to the Emergency Council. They're pulling energy directly from quantum vacuum fluctuations. In English, please, said General Chen. They're using the empty space between atoms as a power source. It's brilliant, but it has a weakness. The extraction process creates quantum field distortions. If we could generate the right frequency, we could disrupt their power supply, finished Dr. Park. Can we build something like that? Asked President Martinez. We've been building something like that, General Chen said, just not for this purpose. He was right. Hidden in research facilities and military bases around the world, humanity had been developing quantum field manipulation technology for decades. Not as weapons, but as tools for advanced manufacturing and computing. With 18 hours left, the world's greatest engineers began modifying equipment that had taken years to build. But that wasn't the most important part of humanity's response. The most important part was what General Chen called the doctrine, mutually assured destruction, he explained to the world leaders. It kept us from destroying ourselves during the Cold War. Maybe it can keep the aliens from destroying us now. It was insane. It was dangerous. It was typically human. With 12 hours left before the deadline, President Martinez made the announcement that would change galactic history. We do not kneel, she said simply. Around the world, humanity prepared to show the galaxy exactly what they were capable of. The deadline came at noon, exactly 72 hours after first contact. Veltar stood ready to demonstrate Council power by disabling Earth's electrical grid. It was a standard procedure, used successfully on dozens of worlds. Cut the power. Show superior technology. Accept surrender. But when he activated the systems, something unexpected happened. Every ship, plane, and satellite around Earth began moving toward the harmony of worlds. What are they doing? Admiral Thrak demanded. On the screens, they watched an impossible sight. Military vessels from every nation on Earth moved in perfect coordination. Aircraft carriers and destroyers sailed alongside ships from former enemies. Fighter jets from different countries flew in formation. Even civilian ships had joined the convoy. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in the communication chamber aboard the hastily converted cargo ship New Hope. Around her, representatives from every nation on Earth waited. This was humanity's response to the ultimatum. Alien ship, she broadcast on all frequencies. This is Dr. Elena Vasquez, speaking for the people of Earth. We need to talk. Veltar's image appeared on the screens around Earth once again. His yellow eyes showed confusion and irritation. You have had your time to decide, he said. Surrender your weapons and submit to Council authority. We've studied your ship, Dr. Vasquez replied calmly. Very impressive technology. Zero-point energy extraction, quantum-locked hull plating, gravitic propulsion. Your people are clearly more advanced than us. The alien ambassador seemed pleased by this recognition. Then you understand the futility of resistance. Actually, we understand something else, Dr. Vasquez said. Your technology has weaknesses. She gestured, and data began streaming across communication channels. Technical specifications, energy readings, structural analysis. In 72 hours, humanity had learned more about alien technology than most species learned in centuries. Your zero-point extractors operate on quantum field manipulation, she continued. They create predictable distortion patterns. Your hull uses exotic matter held in place by magnetic containment. Your communication system works on subspace frequencies that can be tracked and intercepted. On the alien bridge, several beings exchanged worried glances. This primitive species had analyzed their technology with impossible speed. Your point? Veltar asked, though his voice had lost some of its confidence. Our point is that your ship, while powerful, is not invincible. We've identified 17 different ways to disable or destroy it using technology we already possess. This was a lie, but a carefully constructed one. Humanity had found 3 possible methods of attack. 17 sounded more impressive. Admiral Thrak leaned forward. Impossible. Our defenses are designed to stop energy weapons, kinetic projectiles, and electromagnetic pulses, Dr. Vasquez interrupted. They're not designed to stop what we're bringing. Around the alien ship, more human vessels arrived every hour. Not just military ships, but cargo vessels, research ships, even luxury yachts. All had been rapidly modified with equipment that the aliens didn't recognize. General Robert Chen took over the communication from his position aboard the battleship Defiance. We've had 72 hours to prepare, he said. Do you know what humans can do in 72 hours when we're motivated? The truth was both simpler and more complex than the aliens realized. Humanity hadn't built superweapons in 3 days. Instead, they had done something more typically human. They had improvised. Every quantum computer on Earth had been networked together to analyze the alien ship. Every particle accelerator had been modified to generate specific frequencies. Every satellite had been reprogrammed to work as part of a massive sensor array. We're not threatening you, Dr. Vasquez said, returning to the communication. We're informing you. If you attempt to harm Earth or its people, we will respond with everything we have. And what exactly do you have? Veltar demanded. The answer came from Captain Maria Santos, commander of the submarine Deep Strike, which had positioned itself directly below the alien ship. Quantum torpedo, armed and ready, she reported. Frequency matched to your ship's zero-point extractors. One shot will create a cascade failure in your power systems. From orbit, Colonel Jiang Wei added his voice. Modified nuclear warhead, enhanced with exotic matter scraping from meteorite samples, designed to penetrate your hull shielding. More voices joined in. Ship after ship, weapon after weapon. Some were real, some were exaggerated, some were complete fiction. The aliens couldn't tell which were which. Ambassador Kriya watched the human response with fascination. Her species had been warriors once, before the Council. She recognized something in humanity's tactics that the others were missing. They're not just threatening us, she said quietly. They're teaching us. Teaching us what? Veltar snapped. How to think like humans. She was right. Every human transmission included technical data, tactical analysis, and strategic thinking. They weren't just showing strength. They were showing how they approached problems, how they adapted, how they turned disadvantages into advantages. Dr. Vasquez made the next move. We know you could destroy our planet, she said. Your weapons are powerful enough to crack continents. But here's what you might not have considered. We know where your communication relay is. On the alien bridge, several beings went very still. Every faster-than-light communication in your network passes through quantum entanglement relays, she continued. We've tracked your signals. We know the frequency. We know the location. This was partially true. Human scientists had detected the alien communication system, but they hadn't fully mapped it. They were making educated guesses based on physics and hoping the aliens couldn't tell. Your point? Veltar asked, though his voice was now tight with concern. Quantum communication. Networks are fragile, Dr. Vasquez explained. Introduce the wrong frequency, create the right kind of interference, and the whole system collapses. Quantum entanglement breaks down. Communication becomes impossible. General Chen added the crucial detail. We've built a quantum virus. One, transmission properly coded will cascade through your entire network. Every ship, every station, every planet in your council will be cut off from each other instantly. The silence on the alien bridge was profound. They were beginning to understand what humanity was really threatening. You would destroy galactic communication to save one planet? Admiral Thrak asked. We would destroy galactic communication to preserve our freedom, President Martinez replied, her voice broadcast from the White House. The choice is yours. The aliens were facing something they had never encountered before, a species that understood mutually assured destruction not just as a military tactic, but as a philosophical position. Veltar looked at his fellow council members. Some showed fear, others showed anger, all showed the same realization. They had badly miscalculated. This is madness, he said. This is humanity, Dr. Vasquez replied. We've been practicing mutually assured destruction for decades. We're very good at it. The standoff had begun. Around Earth, human ships held their positions. Above Earth, the alien vessel waited. And across the galaxy, the Council faced a question they had never had to answer before. What do you do with a species that refuses to be conquered because they're willing to destroy themselves and take you with them? The answer would reshape the galaxy. The Council emergency session convened within hours. Across the galaxy, representatives of 12 civilizations gathered in holographic conference aboard the station Nexus Prime. The debate was intense and growing heated. They're bluffing, insisted General Mordak of the Hegemony Forces. No species would actually destroy their own communication networks over one primitive planet. You weren't listening, Ambassador Kriya replied. They're not threatening to destroy our networks to save their planet. They're threatening to destroy our networks if we destroy their planet. There's a difference. On Earth, humanity was having its own debates. In secure bunkers around the world, leaders struggled with the magnitude of what they were threatening. Are we really prepared to do this? Asked Chancellor Emma Weber of the European Federation. Cut off 12 civilizations from each other? The consequences could last for centuries. President Martinez looked at the reports streaming in from around the planet. Every major city had people in the streets, not panicking but watching, waiting, united in a way that humanity had never been before. The question isn't whether we're prepared to do it, she said. The question is whether they believe we're prepared to do it. Dr. Vasquez was working with an international team of scientists, refining their understanding of the alien communication system. They had made remarkable progress, but she knew they were still working with incomplete information. How confident are we that this quantum virus will actually work? Asked Dr. Park. 60%, Dr. Vasquez replied honestly. Maybe 70 on a good day. And if it doesn't work? Then we find out how good alien weapons really are. But the virus was only part of humanity's strategy. The real weapon was psychological. They were teaching the aliens to think like humans, and humans had spent decades perfecting the art of mutually assured destruction. General Chen stood before a map of Earth showing thousands of red dots. Each dot represented a nuclear weapon, a biological research facility, or an industrial complex that could be turned into a weapon. Every major population center, every resource extraction site, every agricultural region, he explained to the Global Military Council. If they want to rule Earth, we'll make sure there's no Earth left to rule. This wasn't just a threat. Preparations were already underway. Nuclear submarines had moved to positions around the world's major cities. Biological research facilities were preparing to release modified viruses that would make the planet uninhabitable for decades. Chemical plants were rigged to create atmospheric contamination that would take centuries to clear. They want our planet, General Chen said, but they want it because it's valuable. We're going to show them that the cost of taking it by force is higher than the value they'd gain. The genius of the plan wasn't its destructiveness. It was its completeness. Humanity wasn't threatening to fight the aliens. They were threatening to remove themselves and their planet from the equation entirely. On the alien ship, Veltar received reports from Council intelligence services. What they had learned about human preparations was disturbing. They're not just threatening nuclear destruction, reported analysis specialist Chintar. They're threatening biological contamination, atmospheric poisoning, and systematic destruction of all infrastructure. If they follow through, Earth will be uninhabitable for 1,000 years. But they would die too, Admiral Thrak protested. That appears to be acceptable to them. The aliens were struggling to understand a concept that came naturally to humans, choosing death over slavery. Ambassador Kriya had been studying human history during the standoff. What she found both fascinated and horrified her. They've done this before, she reported to the council. Not on this scale, but the principle is the same. They call it scorched earth tactics. When facing invasion, they destroy everything of value rather than let enemies benefit from conquest. That's primitive thinking, Veltar argued. Is it? They held their own planet hostage for decades with nuclear weapons. They called it the Cold War, but it kept them from destroying themselves. Now they're applying the same logic to us. The Council was beginning to realize that humanity's threat was credible, not because they were bluffing, but because they genuinely meant it. Dr. Vasquez made the next transmission to the alien ship, and her words sent shockwaves through the Council. "We've been thinking about your position," she said calmly. "You represent 12 civilizations, thousands of worlds, billions of people. That's a lot of responsibility." "What is your point?" Veltar asked warily. "Our point is that you have much more to lose than we do." She activated a display showing Earth's analysis of the Council's communication network. "Your civilization depends on instant communication across light years, trade, governance, military coordination, scientific collaboration. Take that away, and your galactic society collapses into isolated planetary systems." "You would not dare—" "We absolutely would dare," Dr. Vasquez interrupted. "Because from our perspective, we have nothing left to lose. You've already told us you'll destroy or control our world. Why wouldn't we take your communication network with us?" The logic was unassailable and terrifying. Humanity was threatening. To commit civilizational suicide and take galactic society with them, President Martinez took over the communication. "Here's what we propose," she said. "Leave Earth alone, completely. No monitoring stations, no oversight, no interference. Go back to your council and tell them that humanity is not a threat to galactic civilization. We're too busy threatening ourselves to bother anyone else. And if we refuse, then we activate our doomsday protocols and find out whether our quantum virus works as well as we think it does." The transmission ended, leaving the aliens to contemplate an impossible choice. On Nexus Prime, the council debate had become increasingly desperate. "We cannot allow primitives to dictate terms," General Mordak insisted. "They're not dictating terms," Ambassador Kriya replied. "They're explaining consequences." The Andromedan representative, Logic Prime, had been silent throughout the debate. Finally, it spoke. "Analysis indicates that human threat assessment is accurate. Probability of communication network collapse if quantum virus is deployed, 87.3%. Probability of human follow-through on threats, 94.7% based on historical precedent and current preparations." "So what do you recommend?" Veltar asked. "Withdrawal. Immediate and complete. That sets a dangerous precedent. Other species might." "Other species," Logic Prime interrupted, "do not possess humanity's particular combination of technological capability, strategic thinking, and willingness to embrace mutual destruction as a viable solution." On Earth, the waiting continued. In living rooms around the world, families watched news coverage of ships surrounding the alien vessel. Children asked their parents if the world was going to end. Parents struggled to explain concepts like nuclear deterrence and mutually assured. Destruction to minds too young to understand why anyone would choose destruction over surrender. But perhaps the children understood better than anyone. When asked by a reporter what she thought about the situation, 8-year-old Lucy Chen from San Francisco gave an answer that would be quoted in history books. "The aliens want us to be afraid, but we're not afraid. We're humans. We don't give up." The standoff had become something more than a military confrontation. It had become a test of fundamental principles. Would intelligence and civilization always triumph over determination and sacrifice? Or could a younger, more aggressive species force older, more advanced civilizations to reconsider their assumptions about power? The answer would come within hours, and it would change the galaxy forever. The Council's response came 12 hours later, and it was not what humanity expected. 200 warships dropped out of hyperspace around Earth. The alien fleet formed a perfect sphere around the planet, each vessel bristling with weapons that could crack continents. These were not exploration ships or diplomatic vessels. These were instruments of war, designed by species that had conquered worlds for millennia. In command centers around Earth, alarms screamed. Satellite data showed energy signatures that dwarfed anything in human experience. Each alien warship carried more firepower than all of Earth's nuclear weapons combined. President Martinez stared at the tactical displays in the White House Situation Room. The mathematics were simple and terrifying. Humanity's threats meant nothing if they were all dead. "Ma'am," General Chen said quietly, "they're charging weapons, but humanity's response was not panic. It was acceleration. Activate all doomsday protocols," President Martinez ordered. Full implementation. Around the world, systems that had been on standby switched to active status. Nuclear weapons armed themselves. Biological research facilities opened sealed containers. Chemical plants began mixing compounds that would poison the atmosphere for centuries. More importantly, humanity's quantum virus began its final countdown. Dr. Vasquez stood in the communications center aboard the New Hope, watching as her life's work prepared to potentially destroy galactic civilization. "Quantum virus is ready for deployment," she reported. "All targeting parameters confirmed. Network mapping is complete." "Are you certain it will work?" President Martinez asked over the secure channel. "No," Dr. Vasquez replied honestly. "But neither are they." The aliens had made a critical error. They believed that a display of overwhelming force would break humanity's resolve. Instead, it confirmed everything humans believed about the Council's intentions. Admiral Rosa Delgado, commander of the Pacific Fleet, broadcast from her flagship to the alien armada. "Alien vessels, this is Admiral Delgado of Earth Defense Command. You have deployed weapons of mass destruction in Earth's solar system. We consider this an act of war." "Your weapons cannot harm us," came the reply from Admiral Thrak aboard his flagship Infinite Justice. "Surrender now and your deaths will be quick." "Our weapons don't need to harm you," Admiral Delgado replied. "They just need to make sure you get nothing from our deaths." On cue, nuclear submarines around the world launched their missiles, not at the alien ships, but at Earth's own cities. The aliens watched in horror as humanity began systematically destroying its own civilization. Moscow, Beijing, London, New York, Tokyo, every major population center saw mushroom clouds rising into the sky. But these weren't full-scale nuclear attacks. They were precision strikes on specific targets: government buildings, military installations, industrial complexes. The message was clear. If you want to rule Earth, there will be no Earth to rule. "They're insane," Admiral Thrak breathed, watching the destruction through his ship's sensors. "They're committed," corrected Ambassador Kriya, who had requested to be present for what she believed would be a historic moment. But the nuclear strikes were just the beginning. Across Earth, biological research facilities released modified viruses into the atmosphere, not deadly to humans in the short term, but designed to make the planet uninhabitable for any species that required oxygen in different concentrations than humans. Chemical plants began producing atmospheric contaminants that would take decades to clear. Agricultural regions were systematically poisoned with compounds that would prevent any food production for years. "Stop," Veltar broadcast to Earth. "You're destroying your own world." "That's the point," replied President Martinez from her bunker beneath Washington. "You want Earth? Take it. But you'll get a dead rock spinning in space, poisoned for 1,000 years. The Council fleet hesitated. They had expected resistance, even desperate attacks. They had not expected systematic self-destruction. But humanity's most devastating weapon was still unused. Dr. Vasquez activated the quantum virus transmission system. Around the world, every radio telescope, communication array, and quantum computer focused on a single task: injecting a carefully crafted signal into the Council's communication network. "Quantum virus deployment in 10 seconds, she announced. "Wait," came an unexpected voice over the communication channel. It was Ambassador Kriya, speaking directly from the Council flagship. "I speak for myself, not the Council," she said urgently. My people faced a choice like this 800 years ago. We surrendered. We joined the council and we have prospered under their protection. But we have always wondered what might have been if we had chosen differently. Your point? General Chen asked. Perhaps it is not you who need to evolve. Perhaps it is us. On the council flagship, Veltar turned to stare at the Deltarian ambassador. What are you saying? I am saying that in 8 centuries of council membership, we have become comfortable, safe, predictable. We have forgotten what it means to fight for something we believe in. These humans are reminding us. The quantum virus countdown continued. 5 seconds, 4, 3, stop the countdown, Admiral Thrak ordered his weapons officers. Cease all targeting operations. Sir? His tactical officer asked, confused. I said stop. We withdraw. 2 seconds. 1. Dr. Vasquez's finger hovered over the activation control. One press would send the quantum virus racing through subspace, potentially destroying the communication network that held galactic civilization together. Quantum virus deployment suspended, she announced. Around Earth, the alien war fleet began powering down their weapons. Nuclear submarines held their positions, but did not fire additional missiles. The world held its breath. Veltar appeared on communication screens around Earth one more time. People of Earth, he said, and his voice was different now. Respectful, rather than condescending. The Council withdraws its demand for surrender. Your world will not be conquered or occupied. What's the catch? President Martinez asked. No catch, but also no guarantee. We are withdrawing because you have demonstrated that the cost of conquest exceeds any possible benefit. But we are also impressed. Ambassador Kriya stepped into view beside him. The Council faces many challenges, she said. Species that threaten galactic peace, resources that need protection, problems that require solutions we have not been able to find. Perhaps we need advisors who think differently than we do. The offer was implicit, but clear. The Council was not just withdrawing. They were considering humanity as potential allies, rather than threats. Dr. Vasquez looked at her quantum virus transmitter. One press of a button could still bring down galactic civilization. The power was intoxicating and terrifying. The virus stays armed, she said finally. Permanently, as insurance. Understood, Veltar replied. As does your nuclear arsenal, your biological weapons, and your atmospheric poisons. We assume. You assume correctly. The standoff was ending, but not with surrender. It was ending with a new kind of relationship between humanity and the galaxy. One based not on conquest or submission, but on mutual respect, backed by mutual assured destruction. The EIE alien fleet began departing Earth's solar system, but slowly. Ships left in small groups over several days, giving humanity time to stand down their most destructive preparations. But the quantum virus remained armed. The nuclear weapons remained deployed. The biological agents remained ready. Because humanity had learned something important. Sometimes the best way to avoid a fight is to make sure everyone understands exactly what that fight would cost. 6 months after the standoff, Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in the council chambers on Nexus Prime, watching representatives from 13 civilizations debate the future of galactic governance. The 13th representative was her. The vote had been close. 7 in favor of human membership. 5 opposed, with the Andromedans abstaining until the final moment. Logic Prime's deciding vote had been simple. Statistical analysis indicates that humanity's strategic thinking capabilities exceed council average by 347%. Logical conclusion: they should be included. But integration was proving more difficult than anyone had expected. The humans want to know why we don't have contingency plans for total council collapse, Ambassador Veltar was saying, exasperation clear in his voice. Because that would never happen, replied Councillor Zephron of the Celestial Empire. That's what every civilization thinks, until it happens, Dr. Vasquez interjected. We call it the normalcy bias, the tendency to believe that things will continue as they always have. She activated a holographic display showing Earth's analysis of galactic infrastructure. Your communication network has no backup systems. Your trade routes have no alternate pathways. Your military forces have no independent command structures. One major disruption could collapse the entire system. Such disruptions are extremely unlikely, Veltar argued. So was a species threatening to destroy galactic communications rather than surrender, Dr. Vasquez replied. How did that work out for your probability models? The other council members shifted uncomfortably. In 6 months, humanity had questioned every assumption, challenged every protocol, and suggested improvements that no one had thought were necessary. They were also highly effective. When the Kethmori Syndicate had threatened council shipping lanes, humanity's suggested response was swift and decisive. Flood subspace with false communications, making coordination impossible, then offer the Syndicate a choice between immediate withdrawal or complete communication isolation. The Syndicate withdrew within days. When resource shortages threatened stability in the Outer Rim, humanity proposed a solution that seemed insane. Voluntary rationing backed by the threat of total trade embargo for non-compliance. It worked perfectly. The problem, Ambassador Kriya explained to her fellow Deltarians in private, is that they think differently than we do. Where we see stability, they see stagnation. Where we see peace, they see vulnerability. Are they wrong? Asked her aide. Kriya considered the question. In the 6 months since humanity joined the Council, they had identified and helped resolve 17 potential crises that the Council's predictive models had completely missed. No, she said finally. They're not wrong. That's what makes them so dangerous. On Earth, the integration was causing its own challenges. Humanity now had access to technologies that were centuries ahead of anything they had developed independently. Faster-than-light communication, zero-point energy extraction, gravity manipulation, the possibilities were endless. President Martinez stood in the newly constructed Earth Council building, watching construction crews install alien technology alongside human innovations. The building itself was a symbol of the new relationship. Human architecture incorporating council materials and design principles. Any regrets? Asked General Chen, joining her at the observation window. About threatening to destroy galactic civilization to maintain our independence. None whatsoever. Even though we're now part of that civilization? Especially because we're now part of it, Martinez replied. They needed someone to ask the hard questions, someone willing to challenge their assumptions. The quantum virus. Transmitter still sat in a secure facility beneath Geneva, maintained by an international team and programmed to activate automatically if Earth was ever attacked. The aliens knew about it. Everyone knew about it. It had become humanity's calling card in galactic politics. Dr. Vasquez had insisted on one modification to the device. It now included a 12-hour delay and a cancellation code that required authorization from at least 3 Earth governments. Even in their anger, humans preferred to avoid accidents. The beauty of mutually assured destruction, she had explained to the Council during her first official presentation, is that it only works if everyone believes you're willing to use it. But it works best when everyone also believes you're sane enough not to use it unless absolutely necessary. The aliens were still learning to understand human psychology. Back on Nexus Prime, the Council was debating their newest crisis. A species called the Vorthak had been expanding aggressively, conquering 3 star systems in the past year. Traditional Council responses, diplomatic protests, economic sanctions, military demonstrations, had proven ineffective. The Vorthak believe that strength is the only language worth speaking, reported Admiral Thrak. They view our peaceful approaches as weakness. Then perhaps we should speak their language, Dr. Vasquez suggested. You're proposing military action? Veltar asked, surprised. I'm proposing clarity, she replied. The Vorthak think they understand the balance of power in this galaxy. They think the Council is too civilized to fight effectively. Let's educate them. Her proposal was characteristically human. Give the Vorthak exactly what they wanted, a demonstration of strength, but not in the way they expected. Every Council species contributes 1 ship to a joint fleet, she explained. Not warships, civilian vessels, cargo haulers, passenger transports, research ships. We position them at the edge of Vorthak space and broadcast a simple message. What message? Admiral Thrak asked. That we're prepared to evacuate every single Vorthak civilian to safety before we turn their military installations into radioactive dust. The Council chamber fell silent. You're threatening to help them? Logic Prime asked, confusion evident in its mechanical voice. We're threatening to make their conquest meaningless, Dr. Vasquez explained. The Vorthak expand because they want resources and territory. If we evacuate all the civilians and destroy all the infrastructure, they get empty planets, worthless rocks. But that would be genocide, protested Counselor Zephyron. No, it would be the opposite of genocide. We're threatening to save every Vorthak life while making their military expansion pointless. They can have the planets, but there won't be anything left on them worth having. Ambassador Kree was the first to understand. It's the same principle. They used on themselves. Make conquest more expensive than the value gained. Exactly. Plus, it puts us in the moral superior position. We're trying to save lives, not take them. Hard to argue against that. The plan was implemented within weeks. A fleet of 200 civilian vessels, protected by minimal military escort, appeared at the edge of Vorthak space. The message was broadcast on all frequencies. Vorthak Military Command, this is the Galactic Council evacuation fleet. We are prepared to remove all civilians from worlds you intend to attack. Once evacuation is complete, military installations will be destroyed to prevent them from falling into hostile hands. This is not a threat. This is a courtesy. The Vorthak response was predictable. Outrage, confusion, and ultimately a demand. For clarification, Dr. Vasquez handled the communication personally. Your expansion strategy depends on capturing resources and population, she explained. We're removing both variables from the equation. You can still conquer the planets, but they'll be empty and worthless. Your choice. You cannot do this, the Vorthak commander snarled. We can and we will. However, we're also prepared to offer an alternative. What alternative? Peaceful expansion. The Council has 17 uninhabited systems suitable for colonization. We'll provide transportation, basic infrastructure, and trade agreements. You get the territory you want without the war. It was classic human negotiation. Offer them what they want, but remove the satisfaction of taking it by force. The Vorthak chose the peaceful option, not because they were convinced by Council diplomacy, but because military conquest had become pointless. 6 months later, the former Vorthak Empire was a thriving Council member species. Their expansion needs met through cooperation rather than conquest. How did you know they would choose peace? Veltar asked Dr. Vasquez after the successful integration ceremony. Because the only thing more satisfying than taking something by force is getting something even better without a fight, she replied. The success with the Vorthak established humanity's reputation in council politics. They were the species you called when traditional diplomacy failed, the ones who thought of solutions that no one else would consider, but they were also the species everyone knew could end galactic civilization if pushed too far. 2 years after first contact, Earth hosted its first Galactic Council Summit. Representatives from 13 species gathered in Geneva, with the quantum virus transmitter hidden in the basement below them. President Martinez opened the summit with words that would be remembered throughout galactic history. Welcome to Earth. We hope you enjoy your stay. The coffee is excellent, the food is diverse, and the locals are friendly. We have only one rule. Please don't make us destroy everything. We're quite good at it, and it tends to make people unhappy. The laughter that followed was nervous but genuine. Everyone understood the joke, and everyone understood that it wasn't entirely a joke. Dr. Vasquez concluded her memoir years later with a simple observation.